The United States says it has seized two oil tankers linked to Venezuela that it alleges were conducting illicit activities. One of the ships was taken in the North Atlantic and was a part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet.
6 ships. Pre-dawn. 22 knots. A Russian ring tightened to under 2 miles around a U.S. carrier, and no one fired a shot. So why didn't the carrier turn away? Because the real fight wasn't missiles. It was timing, emissions, and discipline. Stay and let ESM paint every signal, or maneuver and hand them the narrative. In the next minutes, you'll see the exact decision the CIC made, the Seahawks' green laser warning, and the data they walked away with. What would you do at the scope? Break the circle, or turn their probe into intel? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You think the danger is missiles? It's not. The real trap is forcing you to blink first and let them narrate your move. That's the play when 6 hulls close in on a carrier and hold formation without crossing a fire line. They press space, not steel. Start with the geometry. 6 ships at 22 knots. 2 slide up on the port quarter, 2 sit in trail, 2 ride the bow arc. The ring tightens, CPA under 2 miles, an elegant squeeze that leaves lanes but no dignity. Every bearing drift gets logged. Every one of their course corrections is a test. The circle isn't to ram. It's to box your options. Break out, and you hand them a story. A hard turn pushes you toward a collision claim, a ready-made clip of wake and alarms, and a snapshot of your defensive doctrine under stress. Hold course, and you bet on discipline, sensors, and time. Pressure rises in small clicks. The risk isn't metal. It's perception. Non-kinetic pressure does the work. Their radars paint you in steady beats. Your ESM sniffs and catalogs pulse width, scan rate, side lobe quirks. They bait emissions, jogging power, shifting modes, checking if your own systems wake or shift gain. It's chess with knights and bishops, probing angles to force a clumsy hand reveal. Every ping is a question. Every silence is an answer. Inside CIC, voices drop. Watch turnover notes sit open, lines underlined. Imkin rules, guard nets, airplan windows. Countdown to CPA ticks on a side console. Checklists ride the rhythm. Threat matrix, deconflict lanes, launch criteria for hellos, call formats for bridge-to-bridge. Adrenaline tries to speed the room. Procedure keeps it slow. One operator calls bearing rate. Another validates tracks against AIS and surface search. The air boss gets a quiet update, not a shout. 2 miles matters. At that gap, a Seahawk has time to launch, mark, and posture without crossing an unsafe low pass. Escorts can still block with bow on geometry instead of sweeping turns. Flight deck safety margins stay intact with wind over deck stable and no emergency brake on the deck cycle. Legally and operationally, hulls that close beyond that start a different conversation. Rules for safe navigation, responsibilities to avoid collision, and the political noise of even a paint scrape. Now the playbooks. A hard turn speaks too loud. It tells them what you protect first, shows rudder bite and response curve, and hints at when your deck cycle pauses. That's gold for a planner. A steady course speaks less. It keeps your signature flat, denies timing tells, and turns their squeeze into your collection window. You starve the story and feed the analysts. They don't need a hit. They need a clip. A deck crew sprint. A siren. A flash of chocks and chains in a rush. They can frame that as dominance in the info space, the flinch they came for. A 20-second video beats a 1,000-ton theory. So the carrier chooses hold steady. 22 knots. ESM wide open. Surface radar tracks locked and cross-checked. No hard rudder. No panic voice on channel 16. The force move puzzle becomes a recording session. Their ring looks tight. Your data net gets tighter. The tension drains by degree because you refuse the script. But now you still have to draw a line, and you have to do it without writing their headline for them. You need a signal they can't ignore that still sits below the threshold. That's where the Seahawk comes in, with a beam that lands on the only windows that matter. How do you draw a hard line without crossing one? You use a helicopter and a beam that lands only where decisions live. Not a threat. A boundary that bites just enough to change the math. The launch is clean. Seahawk spins, rotors bite, spray lifts off the wake. Crew brief is tight. Warn, don't provoke. The aircraft angles out on the carrier's quarter, sliding into a lane that keeps clear of each hull's bow wave and weapons arcs. Back in CIC, two timelines stack on the same board. Ring geometry tightening and the Hello's on-station clock. One team tracks range and bearing rates. Another keeps comms short and plain. Here's the edge. A spotlight can read like a dare. A low pass can look like a strike run. A flare in the wrong angle turns a warning into a headline. Too soft, and the ring closes again. The tool that threads it is the green laser on their bridge windows, a non-lethal cue that's loud to the only people who matter, the ones with the helm and the con. You don't light hull. You tap command. The logic is simple, visible, precise, aimed at the brain of the ship. It says, "We see you. We're ready. Step back." It's a line you can read from the chair and a signal that doesn't trigger a chain reaction. The Hello holds a steady offset, keeps altitude prudent, and pulses the beam in short, deliberate strokes that don't blind, don't wander, don't shout. Just a steady hand tapping the glass. Maritime practice has a toolkit for this tier. Acoustic hailers that carry a clear voice across chop. Flags and shapes that say intent without radio. Channel calls with plain language and call signs. Running lights and strobes that change posture without moving steel. The green laser fits in that same band. Controlled, specific, hard to misread when you put it on the bridge and nowhere else. Watch what happens when it lands. The Russian helmsman puts in a touch of rudder. Not a turn away, a trim. Speed bleeds a knot, maybe two, enough to widen spacing without admitting it. The ring loosens by inches, closest points rise. It's not a retreat. It's a recalibration, a decision to stand just outside the tripwire. That's the goal. Move the threshold back without a word. While the airframe holds station, the harvest keeps running. ESM nets pull radar fingerprints, note timing drift, and log the on-off choreography that shows who is watching whom. One contact changes mode as the Hello approaches, another bumps power, then drops it when spacing opens. Each hiccup becomes an index card. Pulse shape here, scan pattern there. Correlated with the moment the laser swept the window. Holding 22 knots still matters. It keeps wind over deck predictable if you need to push another sortie. It preserves sensor geometry so bearings and ranges don't jitter with every gust. Comms stay in a rhythm, which matters when every word can be clipped and replayed by someone who wants drama. Escorts hold their lanes without odd crossovers. The whole picture stays readable. The gambit works. The fan of contacts opens a few degrees. CPA climbs. The carrier never throws a hard rudder. The Hello never dips low. The alarms stay quiet. The clip they wanted never happens. What you get instead is a clean data picture. Emissions mapped to behaviors. Behaviors mapped to thresholds. By 0600, the surface plot looks routine. The ring fades to distant eyes and long glances. But the quiet is not empty. It's a library, timing quirks, mode shifts, reaction speeds, that will steer the next meet long before anyone sees it coming. In near-peer waters, winning means you control tempo, emissions, and the story. Turning first is noise. Control is power. When you set the pace and keep your signals clean, you choose when and how risk shows up. That's how you bend a probe into an intel run. What would you do with the scope? Break the ring or bank the intel? Comment your choice below and subscribe for disciplined, real-world breakdowns. This is the story of quiet moves beating loud ones. Next time, we'll show how analysts turn timing drifts and radar quirks into playbooks that bend a standoff before it starts.